It's high time that we turn our backs on these heathen nations, withdraw our citizenship, withdraw our support, and answer the call of Yahuwah, and commit ourselves wholeheartedly to his nation and his culture alone. Dual citizenship, worshiping two masters, is not an option.
Yahuwah is your name, I'm gonna proclaim you who never changes, no matter the language. I praise it, say it, Allahu Yahuwah, your favor is amazing, Allahu Yahuwah.
Shalom, shalom. I'm Yehutzadok ben Yahuwah, and I'm an avid believer, follower, and servant to Yahushua HaMashiach, my King, my Commander-in-Chief, my President, my Redeemer, and my Savior. He is the Son of Yahuwah, the Creator of all things, seen and unseen. Now, before I get into explaining to you my plight or my demonstration of faith, I want to give you some context. Bear with me. Today is Wednesday, August 31st, 2016. It's early in the AM. I am in Warrenton, Virginia. I'm chilling at a park, and I'm seeing buses ride by full of kids on their way to school to say their pledges of allegiance and learn how to be good American citizens. Their parents out here running around chasing money. It's just another day in North American captivity. Now, 2 years ago to the date, I was inspired by the Ruach of Yahuwah and the teachings of Yahushua HaMashiach, the Anointed One, to emancipate myself from the United States government and to step out of the rat race, to lay down my citizenship and become a legal alien here in North American captivity. When it comes to one's ethnicity, that is determined solely by your father. You inherit that from your father. You inherit his bloodline and his lineage. That can never change. You can think of it this way. If you plant a seed in the ground, and when you get something from that ground, it's not determined by the earth. It's determined by the seed. You don't have earth grass. You don't have earth bushes. You don't have earth trees bearing earth fruit and producing more earths. You know, that's ridiculous. It's determined by the seed. You have apple trees, you have peach trees giving off the fruit of the seed and the seed alone. Now, what you can change, though, is your nationality. One can change his or her nationality determined not by the landmass that you occupy, but to the people that you pledge your allegiance to, that you give yourself to, that you confide in. That is determined by the individual and by the individual alone, whether they're coerced or whether they do it of their own accord, voluntarily. And if that nation or that people receives them, they extend to that person citizenship. Now I am going to explain how I emancipated myself from the United States government system, how I laid down my citizenship, because this is purely based on your participation. This is purely based on you carrying and presenting the credential and proof that you are an American citizen. Thus, you have the license to do business here in this country in exchange for goods and services, which is so much like the mark of the beast, but I'm not going to get into that. But I have relinquished all of my rights and the privileges that comes with the American citizenship. Now, I still respect the law of the land. In accordance with, I think it is Romans chapter 13, I still obey the law of the land, but I do not confide in the law of the land. I do not confide in the heathen government that I have been exiled to. Please excuse me, I have these notes here. I no longer use the government, chattel, slave name and identity. I no longer use the credential or any DMV or government issued identification. I no longer use the social security number or the birth certificate for anything. And because of that, I do not go to government buildings, or I do not use government programs or services for anything. I don't call the police. I don't call 911. I don't go to court systems or the judicial system for any type of judgments or help. I no longer even go to hospitals. I no longer go to clinics, because in my opinion, these things are like Frankenstein factories. I don't believe that believers should be going to such extents to try to stay alive that they will take and try to fuse themselves with other people's organs, using other people's blood to try to live. I believe that death is natural, and it should definitely be welcomed by the believer in Yahuwah and his son Yahushua HaMashiach. I no longer drive, of course, since I don't have a license. I walk, and if anything, I may ride with someone. I no longer exchange my allegiance or my endorsement to the United States government in exchange for slave labor opportunities or resources. I am simply now a a legal alien. I take care of the widow, I take care of the fatherless, and I take care of the poor and my people, according to the law of Yahushua HaMashiach. But I do not work for the government anymore in exchange for resources. I refuse to continue spending the remainder of my days here in North American captivity, slave laboring to fuel my oppressor. First things first, I did my due diligence to do research. I didn't just jump out here half-cocked. I did my research on how to survive out here on these streets or even in the woods with little to nothing. I looked at wilderness survival tutorials. I looked at tutorials put online by actual homeless people who wanted to give tips to other people who fell on unfortunate or hard times. And they came in very useful. But ultimately, I was trusting in the promises of the Most High. I'll provide some scriptures to show you how he'll take care of us just like he takes care of the birds of the air or the beasts of the field. His promises are true, and I am living proof that he will follow through on each and every promise that he makes. Next thing is, I got rid of my job. I put in my letter of resignation, or my 2 weeks notice, if you will. It was a pretty decent job. I was working there for about 5 years. Everyone there loved me. I was working with a good team. I was making about $19 an hour with plenty of room and opportunity for growth. And it was just a pretty cake deal. I wasn't being, worked to death or anything. But I had to put it into it because I was giving my allegiance to another. So I can no longer exchange my allegiance to America for these job opportunities or for the resources or whatever. I was giving my allegiance to Yahweh and the nation that he is gathering and putting together through his son and his ruach. So the next thing I did was I paid off my property tax, I paid off bills, and I started to close out accounts. I closed out utility accounts, I closed out credit accounts and loans. I paid those off, and I just made sure all my accounts across the board were closed. Then what I did was, according to the instruction given all through the New Testament, the example given all through the New Testament by the disciples and Yahushua HaMashiach himself, I sold all my possessions. When it came to my vehicles, I returned my one vehicle that I was still paying for back to the dealership, and I had 2 other vehicles that were paid off, and I sold those. The next thing I did was I made arrangements for family affairs. Now this was difficult for me because for years now my family and my friends in my circle have been witnessing me change and lay down the traditions of the society and the traditions of Christianity, and they have been very concerned, and they have had a lot to say about it. I've gotten a lot of backlash. But not only was I dealing with that, and then for them to see me lay down my citizenship and hear about it, they think I completely gone off the deep end. But I've been dealing with that, and on the other hand, I have 2 sons that I love dearly, and I have big plans for. I have my sons with my high school sweetheart, whom I married early on in life, and we planned and we prayed for our sons, and we both love them dearly, but she has a different opinion in life. I tell people all the time that we started to grow apart, and then secrets tore us apart. And so when we separated and divorced, we made a custody arrangement where there was equal everything in shared custody and visitation. And so my sons would spend time with her and spend time with me. And my son seen the difference, how I lived different than mom and mom lived different from me. And my son seen that I was not going to church, but I would stress more so being the church. If you're going to do anything at all, you got to do it the right way. And I believe that temple worship has been done away with. And that's what going to church is temple worship. And I believe that in exile, Yasharal should not be erecting buildings, but more so being the temple themselves, and fellowshipping wherever you can, in homes or anywhere, to encourage and strengthen each other in endurance and in faith. And I stopped celebrating holidays. These holidays that were birthed in the Catholic Church, I stopped celebrating them, and I stopped celebrating birthdays. I didn't watch a lot of cable TV, and I started to send my oldest to school, but then I took him out and I continued to homeschool. I have always taught my sons at home, and I got jealous for that when I tried to send them to school, and I didn't want them picking up the culture, picking up bad habits from the teachers in the school system, and the children in the school system. I didn't want them picking up the bad information. I also held a certain behavior requirement for my sons. Even my ex would call me when she had them and and my voice alone would get them in check, because they know I ain't take no shit. So I gave my sons, fast forward to 2 years ago, when I made this decision, the Most High presented an opportunity in my life to make this decision, and he also gave me the urgency to make this decision and make this sacrifice. I sat my sons down and I gave them the option to either come with me and to live like daddy, or they can go with their mom and live like mommy. And they chose to go with their mom. It hurt my heart a bit, but you know, we have to make big sacrifices here in this life for the call of the Most High, and I'll just leave that at that. And I believe that children are no exception to that. I believe, you know, just like the disciples said, they left family, nation, homes, they left their women, they left their children, you know, they left everything behind to follow the Mashiach. And so I believe that those sacrifices are still even required today. And I gave my sons that option, and I assured them that if they ever wanted to come with me, I would love them to come with me. But if they wanted to go with mommy, that's cool, and I'm not mad at them. And I told them that I will always love them and always be thinking about them. And whenever I could see them, I would see them. But I did not make arrangements with their mom. I don't call them their mom to try to see them. I only see them when my family goes to get them or visits them or what have you. But I did this because I could not, in good mind and in good conscience, teach my sons to trust in my enemies, to trust this nation and in this system that is designed to keep you oppressed, mainly as a brown man. I could not, in good conscience, teach them to trust and confide in this system that I know did not work. It would always keep them dependent on the government and dumb and docile, you know. And it's against Torah to trust in and rely on any system of oppression that has been created by the enemies of Yahweh and the enemies of Yahuwah's people. And to teach, and for a man to teach his seed to trust in the system, in a system that they know is evil, that they know is wicked, I believe that's a whole nother type of disgraceful. To give our children sweet and happy childhoods and to live prosperous adulthoods ourselves, I believe that we don't have this luxury, mainly as a believer, mainly when your eyes have been open to the war that is at hand. And when it comes to the naysayers and the people who, I told my sons, if someone has any questions about what I'm doing, or they're talking shit about what dad is doing, and they're trying to paint me as a bad father or as a deadbeat dad, I told my sons this, and I told them for their own benefit and to tell those naysayers that daddy is living like Jesus, because, you know, they're going to church. They know him by the name Jesus, but they also know that I use the name Yahushai. I told them to tell everyone, and I told them to rest assured that I'm out here living like Jesus, taking care of the widow, taking care of the fatherless, taking care of the message that the Most High has given me, to make sure this message gets out in word and in deed. You know, and to be an example and a light to the world. They know that I'm out here working for the Most High. I stopped working for the United States of America. Now, the last thing I did was I went on a trip. I went on a getaway. After separating myself from the government, then separating myself socially from family members and friends, after separating myself from all of my material wealth and possessions, and after dumbing down my life into a impoverished, homeless state, to where all I had was my travel bag with 3 outfits in it, with some survival gear and material. I went on a getaway. I traveled with no specific destination, to completely trust and depend on the Most High and wrap my head around this next chapter in my spiritual life. I traveled by foot, I hitchhiked, and I took the Greyhound. And I just traveled across the United States. I got about to the Midwest, just really clearing my head and airing things out, and really giving myself to the Most High in meditation and prayer, and out there on the street, talking with strangers, and really getting a wilderness experience, if you will, and wrapping my head around, again, this new chapter in my life. Now, one last thing I want to bring out about that trip. Salakna. One last thing I want to bring out about that trip was the fact that I took with me my social security card, my birth certificate, and my driver's license. I took all important documents, even my high school diploma with me. And not only my own, but I took my son's birth certificates and their social security cards. And what I want to do is put the nail in the coffin concerning our citizenship. And I wanted to take those tokens that I had that symbolize my citizenship and my son's citizenship, and in my eyes also my error and the error that I inflicted on my sons by joining us to this heathen nation, joining us to this nation that hates Yahweh, hates his Torah, and hates his son Yahushua HaMashiach, this nation that will be destroyed by Yahushua HaMashiach when he returns. I wanted to show him that I repent of that error that I inherited by my forefathers, and I repent of continuing that error to my sons. And I want to also be able to tell my sons this story, and even share this story with all believers who find themselves who find that they've made the same error in their lives or in their children's lives. Now I'm going to bring this video to a close by answering a few frequently asked questions, and then I'm going to let you go to your thoughts. Now, one thing I'm often asked is,
so what are you, or what do you believe in?
Now, I'm going to bring this video to a close by answering a few frequently asked questions, and then I'm going to let you go to your thoughts. Now, one thing I'm often asked is, what are you, or what do you believe in? I believe what has been translated into the Bible. I believe that they emphatically teach that only the nation and people of Yasharal can and will be saved by Yahuwah from the second death on the day of judgment. I believe that I am a blood descendant of one of the 12 tribes of Yasharal. And even if I'm not, I believe that since day one, when Yahuwah started this nation in Abraham and in his household, he provided a Torah, or instruction, if you will, for the process of naturalization, extending citizenship to foreigners who have joined themselves to Yasharal through slavery, or simply walking in as free men and women, repenting to Yahuwah because they know that salvation is only of Yasharal. Another question I get is, are you part of the sovereign citizen movement here in America? And the answer to that is no. I don't care about the rights or the citizenship extended to the people of this land by the government of this land. Another question I get is, are you a Hebrew Israelite? And the answer to that is no. If anything, I am an Abri man of Yasharal. I do not confide in the error of the Bible where Christians have translated the proper nouns throughout the Kitab Amat when they should have transliterated this information to the masses. Another question I get is, are you part of a camp or a group or a church? And the answer to that is no. I am simply living out my faith and my convictions one day at a time. Another question I get is, are you starting a following or a cult? And of course I'm not. If anything, I am following the teachings and the ways taught by Yahushua HaMashiach and his disciples. And I am living by the culture of the people of Yasharal given to them in the Torah of Yahuwah. Another question I get is, have you seen your sons? And the answer to that is yes. They still visit with my family often for holidays, birthdays, and sometimes just because. Now, my sons and my family, they know that I don't participate in Christian American holiday celebrations. But when it comes to those just because visits, they'll call me and we collaborate and hook up so I can spend time with my sons and catch up. Another question that I often get, or more so of a statement, is, you know you can be labeled as a domestic terrorist, right? And my response to this is yes. I'm completely clear on this and I completely understand. But I do not care. I do not care how heathens respond to how I'm pushing out this good news, how I'm doing the work of Yahuwah. Another question I get is, will you ever go back to using your American citizenship? And my response to this is no. I will go to the grave, separated indeed from this nation and any other nation on this earth. My citizenship is in heaven, in the Shamayims alone with Yahuwah. And I will live a lifestyle of self-sacrifice rather than a lifestyle of self-preservation for the rest of my life. I will not build on any type of citizenship to any nation, as I am in a nation. I am just a sojourner and a stranger among them. Another question I often get is, or the last question rather that I get is, what does your necklace say? Or what does it mean? Now I'm going to show you, I'm going to bring it on in closer. Now this necklace, the medallion, I carved out of wood myself. I bought the beads from a beauty supply store, and I bought a burn tool and I burned all that you see on this wood. In the middle it says my name. It says Yehutzadak, which is the testimony of my life, that Yahuwah alone is righteous and none other. And around it is my pledge of allegiance to Yahuwah. It says Yahuwah Alhi Ruach Aili Yahushai Malki Yasharal Aimi Torah Daraki Aman. And this means Yahuwah is my mighty one, or my all. His Ruach is on me, or his spirit is on me. Yahushai is my king. Yasharal is my nation, or my people. The Torah is my way, or my culture. Aman, or this is the truth. Now on the back, I'll let you see it. This is an image of a human heart with a hand with a utensil writing on the human heart. And it's actually word picture for one of my favorite scriptures, which is in Yirmiyahu chapter 31 or Jeremiah chapter 31, where it explains the new covenant. And it says over here that I will put my Torah in their inward parts, and upon their hearts I will write it, declares Yahuwah. And then on the heart it is written Yahuwah's Torah. And again, it's just word picture, it's just visual stimuli for me to be encouraged and be reminded of the commitment that I have made to Yahuwah. And I don't worship these. I make them, and a lot of times I've given them away because people appreciate my work. I'm an artist, and I just do them just to have something to do sometimes when I'm bored or in between my travels or whatnot. Now, just like my past videos, I'm putting this out there as a beacon for all believers who have sacrificed everything for the call of Yahuwah. If you want a fellowship, I will provide my email address, or if you have any questions, you can hit me up at yahutzadak@gmail.com. I'll provide it in the description. Be encouraged. Barakat Yahuwah. Yishmarak.